The 2023-2024 NBA season is officially over. Jayson Tatum is an NBA champion. JJ Redick is going to be inducted into the Duke Basketball Hall of Fame. He's also got decisions to make regarding his future. We've got a lot to talk about here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with JJ Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It is so great to have you here with us on Thursday, June 20th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop devoted to everything going on in the life of Duke athletics, and we talk a whole lot about Duke men's basketball. Just this week, Jayson Tatum won an NBA championship with the Boston Celtics. We saw Emil Jefferson get a ring as well as a coach for the Boston Celtics. JJ Redick has been inducted in the Duke Basketball Hall of Fame. That's long overdue. He's got decisions to make regarding his future and so much more that we're going to be able to discuss with Kevin Connelly, the site expert of Ball Durham, throughout the course of today's podcast. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. You can watch the show daily on YouTube each and every day. Hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel. Continue supporting our program. I absolutely love when you take the time to do that. Follow us on X at @LO_Blue Devils, and I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. So without further ado, I'm incredibly excited to welcome him on in. Here is Kevin Connelly, again, our site expert from Ball Durham. Kevin, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, JJ. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for asking. Here we are now in the heart of summer. We're less than a week away from the NBA draft taking place. We saw the NBA season come to a close. We've got JJ Redick news to discuss throughout today's program. It's summertime officially. And Kevin, we've officially reached the week where Duke has given us a couple of sneak peeks of the upcoming basketball team getting some workouts in.
Yeah, it's that exciting time of the summer. Teams back on campus working out. Finally, some basketball content from them because you look at the NBA season, that's over, although we will have the Olympics later this summer with Jayson Tatum trying to get a nice little double right there. Go for a NBA title and an Olympic gold medal all in one summer. So certainly still exciting things to talk about, even though we're here in late June.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think about all the players we're going to be able to talk about throughout the course of the Olympics, given how large the Brotherhood reaches. Obviously, it's got such a dominant American base, but we mentioned Common Malawak, who will play for South Sudan in the upcoming Olympics. Canada announced their basketball team, and of course, RJ Barrett made the senior men's national team for Canada. So we'll see a lot of Blue Devil representation in the basketball Olympics.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's not just going to be you're looking at, all right, I need to watch Team USA, their schedule. You're going to have to go a little bit deeper into trying to find Team Canada's schedule. Maybe, who knows, those two could meet in a gold medal match. And then obviously Team South Sudan. I think a lot of Duke fans are really excited to watch that because you can only learn so much from social media clips about Common Malawak, and assuming that all these men's basketball games in the Olympics will be on, I guess, whether NBC,
right, family
of networks on television or on Peacock streaming. I think a lot of people are going to tune in for that.
No doubt, and it'll be something that we're following, of course. So you mentioned kind of the footage that we've seen so far from Duke basketball, guys getting a couple of workouts in. Duke, I kind of like what they did this year. They posted a couple of photos, and then they said, you know what, we're going to give you about 30-second highlights of each player putting some workouts in. Nothing really in 5-on-5 settings, just kind of traditional individual workouts on the court for these guys. But really cool to see nonetheless. Paulo Banchero recently was on the Brotherhood podcast. He had been in town, as had a lot of other former Duke players for K Academy. They've seen these guys work out, get some runs in and that sort of thing. And more people starting to get excited now that they see the new Duke team wearing that Duke uniform on the practice floor.
Yeah, I think it was obviously really cool that they did put out those videos for just about every scholarship player The one thing that I guess I'll say stood out to me was that Kaman Malawak was there. When Duke formally announced, which was, I guess, I don't know if you'd say earlier in the summer, but certainly later in the spring after the season ended, that he officially signed his NLI, because if you remember, he committed back in, I think it was probably February, and then you didn't hear anything about him. And finally, I guess all the paperwork for everything for his eligibility was cleared, and he signed the paperwork probably April, May-ish. John Shire said in the press release that the school put out that Duke was excited to work with him after he got back from the Olympics and competing with Team South Sudan. So I think a lot of people understood that as, okay, he's not going to be on campus for workouts until after the Olympics, playing in the BAL, the Basketball African League. And he was there for K Academy. So I was like, oh, great. Like, he can move in, he can do all this stuff for K Academy, but then now he probably won't be back until mid to late August because he's playing in the Olympics. But no, he's there now working out, going through these individual drills. And I guess whenever it wraps up or wherever he's due to be at training camp for Team South Sudan for the Olympics, then he'll go there. But I think that was really cool that he's there, and maybe something Duke fans didn't necessarily anticipate him being there for these early summer workouts.
Yeah, we love to see it. We talk about some of the new jersey numbers for Duke basketball. Of course, we're seeing Duke wear non-traditional college basketball numbers for the first time ever. It's the second season the NCAA allows it, and now Duke's got a number 9 like common, right? Con Knipple wearing number 7, Malik Brown wearing number 6. So getting to see those out there on the floor. But then a lot of people reposting some clips out there of number 2, Cooper Flagg. As Cooper Flagg Mania, we knew it would be crazy. But Kevin, just to see the exposure he was getting from people resurfacing a Duke 30-second clip, again, of nobody really defending Cooper Flagg in one-on-one individual drills. My goodness, he's got a lot of recognition.
Well, yeah, and I think that's my overarching point throughout this offseason about this team is going to be there's going to be so many eyeballs on it, more than usual, because of Cooper Flagg. I mean, if you think about it, I don't want to compare him to Kyrie Irving, but knock on wood, knock on everything you have. Say he gets injured early in the season, and it's like a Kyrie Irving where he doesn't play the rest of the season and then he comes back for the NCAA tournament. Obviously, everyone knows the story. He's probably still the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. I think that's how good he is. That's how high his potential can be. So, yeah, you have all these just basketball fans, NBA fans wanting to get a look at Cooper Flagg and seeing what he's going to do at the college level. So, yeah, that's why I keep saying, like, when Duke plays, you're going to have an even bigger audience than normal of your Duke fans, your Duke haters who's hate watching them, hoping they lose. You're going to have all these other NBA people and fans that might not necessarily be college basketball fans watching this team, and also feel like we're really harping on Kaman Malawak. Don't forget, in ESPN's Way Too Early 2025 NBA mock draft, he's the number 3 overall pick. So that even gives people more of an incentive to watch this Duke team this upcoming season.
Yeah, you use the term hate watching, Kevin. And when I think about hate watching, one of the number 1 players to wear that Duke jersey over the last quarter century would have to be number 4, JJ Redick, whose jersey is now in the rafters. He's been broadcasting the NBA Finals. He's been interviewing for NBA head coaching jobs. And most recently, he's back in Duke basketball news, Duke athletics news. And we're going to talk about that after we take our first time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. That's right. We're talking about our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships, and it's also the formula that keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number 1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's keep going here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson today, joined by my pal Kevin Connelly, who's the site expert from Durham. I teased it a moment ago, Kevin. We've been talking about JJ Redick in regards to an NBA head coaching search for quite some time. We've been talking about him because, hey, he is actually someone who was able to get LeBron James to agree to be on a podcast each and every week, right? He's got an awesome production company and podcasting company in his own right. But that's not the news that we're talking about as of late. What have we learned from Duke recently about JJ Redick?
Oh, yeah. Day after the NBA Finals, it was actually funny. So I guess that was Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Duke Athletics put out a press release saying who the 9 people were that were going to go into the Duke Athletics Hall of Fame. And the men's basketball recipient was JJ Redick. So the timeline, I think, was the first thing that came out into my mind, because obviously everybody is talking about him potentially being the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. I think that was been the main focus really since Darvin Ham was fired from the Lakers shortly after they got eliminated from the playoffs. And it really only quieted down for that half a week to a week period where it was ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski saying that Dan Hurley was going to be the Lakers' top target. And then Shams Charania kept saying that's not really the case. It's always been JJ Redick, but it seems like they are going to land on JJ Redick. Who knows when that becomes official? Kind of funny that it hasn't yet, considering the finals are now over and the NBA draft is next week and the Lakers still don't have a head coach. But yeah, so he will be inducted into the Duke Hall of Fame, and the induction ceremony, obviously it's in Cameron, it's at Duke, and it's the last week of October. And it's kind of funny because that's like right at the beginning of the NBA season. So if he does in fact get the Lakers job, will he even be there? Can he leave a game or two into the Lakers season and miss a game because he's going to be at his Hall of Fame induction ceremony down in Durham? So if he does in fact become the Lakers head coach, I think it's a really interesting dynamic if you look at the schedules, because the NBA schedule, the regular season schedule, I should say, is not officially out yet. So I think that's pretty interesting to watch, but certainly obviously well-deserved. I feel like if you think about it now, kind of crazy that he wasn't in it already. You make the argument he's the greatest Duke basketball player of all time. I would still give the award, give that honor to Christian Laettner, but certainly, I mean, JJ Redick leaving the program with the most all-time points, that record's still standing today. 3 ACC tournament championships while he was there, ends up being a first-round NBA draft pick and plays in the league for 15 years. The only thing that felt like was missing on his resume was a national championship. Went to one Final Four, lost in the national semifinals. Jersey hanging in the rafters at Cameron Indoor Stadium, a 2-time National Player of the Year. It's just, and he's been very open and honest about it, especially over the past recent years. He thinks about it every day. He said that he didn't win a national championship at Duke or never won an NBA championship, and that's, I guess, some of the biggest regrets of his career.
Yeah, a number 4 jersey hanging in the rafters at Cameron Indoor Stadium since 2007. One of my favorite players ever to play basketball for Duke. I think so many others' favorite as well. An absolute knockdown shooter. And we mentioned kind of hate watching a little bit ago as we kind of go back and reminisce on JJ Redick, the player. He's been more open and vocal and honest about just everything he went through during his Duke days, now that he has entered kind of the media and podcasting space. But just from what you recall, Kevin, and just watching him, the conversation amongst the basketball community all the way back in his Duke days, you either loved him or hated him. And if you weren't a Duke fan, you probably didn't have much love in your heart for JJ Redick, because he was just that good. A little cocky, showed off how talented he was, but man, one hell of a basketball player in college.
Yeah, I mean, he was a guy that it was like how good he was and how quickly he could sink you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a couple of 3-pointers, and you don't want to compare him to a player like Steph Curry, but it was like once he saw the ball go through the basket a couple of times, it was over for you. And if he came out of the gates on fire, it was just about you could pack up and go home, because he could give you 30 to 40 points very easily. So, I was surprised when I saw the announcement that he was going to go in the Hall of Fame as the men's basketball recipient, because I was like, wow, he's not in the Hall of Fame already.
Yeah.
I mean, Jersey retired and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, well, obviously it makes sense. And then the second thing I thought of was, wow, that could be really interesting if he's the Los Angeles Lakers head coach. Now, unfortunately, it comes before the men's basketball season begins, right? End of October. They're not playing games yet. So if he does become the Lakers head coach, you're not going to see LeBron James and Anthony Davis and the rest of the squad in Cameron celebrating their future, whatever you want to call it, head coach. But yeah, it certainly would be a great honor, and you hope the schedules can line up that he'll be in attendance for that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a big question. What's next for JJ Redick? Is it the Lakers head coaching job? The Detroit Pistons recently had a head coaching vacancy. There could be interest there for Mr. Redick himself. It's wild because he was so talented as a broadcaster, and people, I think, really appreciated his perspective and the way that he saw the game. Not many rookies in the broadcasting world get to immediately step in and sit down on an NBA Finals broadcasting crew, but that's exactly where JJ Redick found himself. A few days removed from the end of the season, many people thought the Lakers would have officially named him the head coach by now after the Dan Hurley things did not come to fruition for LA. But, I mean, what's going on here, Kevin? Do you think it's still the Lakers that will ultimately be the move for JJ Redick? Is it the Pistons? Is it not coaching at all? Is he doing another year of broadcasting?
No, I do think it's going to be the Lakers. I don't want to guarantee it, but boy, the Pistons are an absolute train wreck. I don't think that would be for JJ. And you know how in tune he is with everything going on in the NBA. I think he knows that would not be a good debut head coaching job for him. But I think it's going to be the Lakers. I think it does end up the connection that he has with LeBron James in this podcast. I think that was really setting the groundwork earlier this season. One thing I am curious, and I guess we won't find out until if he does in fact get the Lakers job and his subsequent introductory press conference. I wonder how much conversations he has had with Mike Krzyzewski about this potential job, meaning that, I mean, obviously he's his college coach, but JJ hasn't coached at all at any level of basketball, not even as an assistant. I mean, Mike Krzyzewski was reported to be a consultant for the Lakers in this coaching search. And you figure if JJ Redick is going to talk about coaching with somebody, Mike Krzyzewski would be a good place to start. And obviously Mike Krzyzewski, for as great of a career he had at Duke, about halfway through, a little more than halfway through, turned down the Lakers job 20 years ago when they tried to make him become the head coach. I think it was after Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
And he ended up turning it down and staying at Duke, very similar to what Dan Hurley did at UConn this offseason. So that would be one thing. If I was ever in the room at JJ Redick's introductory press conference, that would be a question I would ask him of going through this entire process and the reports that Mike Krzyzewski was a consultant for the Lakers. Was there any conversation between the two about JJ taking or not taking the Lakers job?
It's interesting for sure. Talking a lot about the Lakers here. Now we need to kind of talk about their arch rivals, the Boston Celtics, who win an NBA championship. Jayson Tatum, a very big reason as to why that happened. And then here we are, again, less than a week away from the NBA draft taking place. Locked On Blue Devils continues in a moment. Right before Locked On Blue Devils gets back going, we got to tell you about Locked On launching the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Go check it out right after this. It's Locked On Sports Today. Let's keep going forward. Today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, Kevin Connelly's here with me. He's the site expert for balldurham.com. The month of June is coming to a close, Kevin, but still a good bit of news out there. Still plenty of work for you to get done. Tell folks about Ball Durham.
Yeah, so we still got everything going on over there at Ball Durham. In the summer now, we're on top of recruiting stuff. Obviously, we're on top of the NBA draft coming up next week as well. And then we're getting these videos out that we talked about at the top of your show from summer workouts. So not really breaking them down, but just going a little bit deeper into it and what these players could potentially bring to the table at Duke this season. So yeah, over at balldurham.com and then on X at ball_Durham.
Yeah, with your coverage this week, you were able to let the world know, as we all found out, Jayson Tatum is now an NBA champion in his 7th season at 26 years old. He wins the NBA Finals as the Celtics defeated Kyrie Irving, Derek Lively, and the Dallas Mavericks. Jayson Tatum had a remarkable Game 5, a big-time closeout game, but falls just short in the NBA Finals MVP voting as his teammate Jaylen Brown is able to take home that award. But Jayson Tatum, now an NBA champion.
Yeah, and he finally checked something off his list that he hasn't accomplished so far in what really has been an outstanding beginning to his career in the NBA. I was very surprised that he didn't get named Finals MVP. And then when you see some of the statistics coming out, that he was the first player to lead a winning team in points, rebounds, and assists, win the finals, and still not be named MVP. Every other player who had done that, I think, there might have been 4 other players, but it was done 7 times because LeBron did it 3 times. They had all been named MVP. So Jayson Tatum becomes the first player to lead your team in points, rebounds, and assists, total points, rebounds, and assists, I should add, and not be named MVP. But he'll certainly take it. NBA championships are not easy to come by. He's certainly found that out, reaching countless conference finals and an NBA finals and not being able to get over the hump, but finally does it this year. And Boston Celtics, they didn't mess around. They took care of business, and I felt like if they were a little bit more focused earlier in the playoffs, I mean, could they really have been looking at a sweep in just about every series? I mean, they won the NBA Finals in 5. They won the Eastern Conference Finals in 4. I think their first round matchup they won in 5, and the second round matchup they won in 5 as well, I believe. So it was a dominant run for them all the way to an NBA title.
Yeah, one of the Celtics assistant coaches, not named Emile Jefferson, of course, shout out the Brotherhood, but Charles Lee is set to become the new NBA head coach for the Charlotte Hornets. Really excited to see him get going. He was on the Bucks staff a few years ago when they won the NBA title. So he's off to Charlotte. There were a couple of Charlotte Hornets who ended up in the locker room with the Celtics after the game had gone final. Grant Williams, of course, had played for the Celtics for so long. But then we saw Mark Williams. We saw Marquise Bolden, who had played for the Hornets this past season. Harry Giles, not with the Hornets, but one of Jayson Tatum's best friends from their freshman year together at Duke, all there to kind of celebrate. So we even saw more Blue Devils, even guys that don't get to win a championship ring, get to be a part of the festivities after the game went final.
Yeah, that was one where I scratched my head about. Yeah. And I was like, wait a second. And then it took me a minute or two to put all the pieces together because Marquise Bolden was in that recruiting class, I believe. No, yeah. I'm wrong. Was he in the recruiting class?
Very close to it. 1 or 2 years off where he was. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it was one of those where I'm really scratching my head and it took me a second to put it all together, but it was certainly cool to see.
Marquise Bolden, the 2016 recruiting class for Duke basketball. So, but yeah, played with the Hornets this past season and good stuff there from him. So speaking of the NBA, we've got the draft now less than a week away, Kevin, and Jared McCain and Kyle Filipowski set to figure out who's going to draft them. Big week coming up for both of those guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I feel like a lot of people in terms of like the national media aren't really focused on the NBA draft because it's considered a very weak class. But you look at Jared McCain, it feels like he's going to be a top 15 pick. Like it feels like anywhere between like that 10 to 15, 17 range-ish is very safe for him to be projected. Kyle Filipowski, I don't know. I feel like he's sliding a little bit down draft boards, and I don't know what the exact reason would be. But like recently I've seen him more projected from like still in the first round, but anywhere from like 20 to 30. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see where they both land. First round is next Wednesday. First time we've really seen the NBA draft split up with the first round on Wednesday, second round on Thursday. But it is going to be interesting to see where both those players land because you feel like given the right organizations and the right fits, they could help a team out right away.
You and I are always tasked with thinking on the fly when we're recording these things, Kevin. We don't always have the advantage of looking things up, but confirming the 2016 recruiting class for Duke featured 6 Blue Devils: Harry Giles, Javin DeLaurier, Frank Jackson, Marquise Bolden, Jayson Tatum, and Jack White. Pretty good recruiting class that Duke was able to
just
put together.
One point on that. For whatever reason, I knew Marquise Bolden was in the same recruiting class as Frank Jackson, but I just couldn't remember off the top of my head if those two were still in the same draft the recruiting class with Jayson Tatum and Harry Giles, because was it the three that now I'm going down a rabbit hole that they were out. Definitely Jayson Tatum and Harry Giles were out until like December, January of their freshman year, but I knew there was a third player that was hurt too.
Yeah.
And I thought it was Marquise Bolden.
Bolden had some injuries for sure.
Yeah, so there was a lot of things going on in my mind all at once, and I just couldn't.
We're trying to do all this on the fly, man.
I couldn't put all the gears together inside. Sometimes you just got to talk it out, and that's what it was. So
that's what we've done.
Hopefully, in those couple of minutes, some of your listeners were probably saying, "Hey, that guy's a dope that he can't remember that," and some other people were like, "Oh yeah, that's a good point. Was he? Was he not?" But yeah, we got there.
Absolutely, we did.
We got there.
We absolutely did. Kevin, it's great to see you as always. Looking forward to doing this again sometime soon with you, okay?
All right. Thanks, JJ.
All right. That's Kevin Connelly, the site expert from Ball Durham, joining us here on today's show. Go support his work at Ball_Durham and at Kevin Connelly 24 on X. That does it for our show here today. Thank you as always for your support of Locked On Blue Devils. We're going to be back at it very soon. That'll do it. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you soon. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.